Yeah, I don't know if she'll be able to do it or not, but I told her, I said, see what I can do.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chief, do you have any comments on it?
That was, basically left up to the individual stations, you know.
Yeah.
And they welcomed it, didn't have any problem with it. The stations are, community service, those that have meeting space and all can accommodate it.
So it's gonna be no cost to the county, something we can provide out to the county for satellite campuses, so. Any questions, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve that.
That's something that
Mayor Scott. Any discussion on that? What the call?
Jeff Jones,
Yes.
William Carter,
yes.
Tony Stigall. Yes. Todd Newsom,
Yes.
Aaron Lewis,
Yes.
Matt Manning,
Yes.
Blake Sample,
Yes.
Terry Allen,
Yes.
Randall King,
Yes.
Andy Anderson.
Yes.
Nick Peterson,
Yes.
Joe Ross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Our two items that's not on the agenda. 7.3, we can read in the Henderson County Fire Department 2003 annual report. Read that in 2 minutes, or we can also report that to your office. Chief Murphy, you have a few items to discuss on that.
There's, like 3 or 4 points. Everybody can read, so that's not what we're going to do. But I do ask, please take this home and at a time that it's quiet, looking for something else to study on. Read this report, please, because it helps us, it helps you as a commissioner representing your district when the public asks questions about fire protection. I look to be able for you to answer those questions. And to give credit tonight where credit's due, and I don't know in my 27 or 8 years as chief that I've ever done this before. And there may be a handful here tonight that even know this, that our first annual report was created and published in 1983 by former Chief Mike Sample. And that was one of several good things that was done on the front end of creating fire protection. Because he called on early on that you need documentation to be able to back up your needs, to be able to back up where concerns are. What's causing the fire? Why are people dying? And all this. Although the first fire reports started along about that time, were required in the late 70s and went into the state, we didn't have anything locally that we could any time look back. And so, I've never done it before, but I want to give him credit for doing this, that will hopefully be here from now on. As long as this department functions and it will, and whoever is responsible for it, that they do the same thing. Even this year, he still each year assists me, as I don't have a secretary, and that's one thing that he's agreed to do, is each month, at the end of the month, we together work with reports that ends up at the end of the year, bringing all this together. And the state fire marshal's office, even our local state representative, one of the two that I emailed this to a couple of days ago, read it, called yesterday and said, you know, I've not seen anything like this before. Are there other departments that do this in the state? This is interesting to look over a 10-year period of time and see how many fires and what started them and all this. And I said, not that I know of. So it's something to be proud of. And I want to make sure that whoever replaces me and the fire department insists that this carries on. It's so important. The most unfortunate thing in the year review part of the report, and I started doing it back a few years ago because we didn't, in the original ones we mentioned things with what actually were reviewed. That we could go back 10 years later on and see 10 years ago, when did we buy those trucks, or how did they come about, how did we pay for them? All that 12 months and monthly reports I've seen y'all are in 3 pages of this, a summary. That's all it is. Please read that part of it. The saddest thing to report in this past year, of course, was the loss of one of our firefighter, Richard Miller, who went to Ridge, Station 1, Westover. He'd been on the station 2 years, primarily services, there's still some in the loss, and the members of the station, they're all closed. Because his death occurred within a 24-hour period of taking the call for service, it's considered nationally as a line of duty death. And he was and has been nationally recognized. And we honor him for his dedication to the community and all the others that have gone on. We just, last couple of days, we lost another charter member department. The community now, enough years have passed, they don't realize what the ones early on had to go through when we basically started with nothing. I was 16 years old and experienced that and was part of it. And we had nothing. So, anyway, also in that review, it was planned tonight after Mayor and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There have been 4 or 5 pieces of apparatus replaced this year. And the plan was, if weather cooperated, we were going to have those trucks on the east side of the courthouse tonight to let each one of you go and look and see for yourself where the federal and state tax dollars are going, our local tax dollars. And 3 of those 5 trucks that are brush trucks were bought from the individual stations by donations and fundraising money. So that's a big thing. That your stations are out raising money to even replace trucks themselves. And the report reflects all that. So we hope it'll cooperate next month, and it'll be nice enough that we can have, it'll be good for the public that's up here that will see them too. There were 3 records set this past year. We've had several records set over the last 2 or 3 years for different things. One of them was the 3rd lowest record of residential structure fires in our 43-year history. At 16 this past year, you'll see in the report. That's the lowest number ever. 16 residential fires. And if you go to page 9, just a couple of pages here, I want you to look at to point out. You'll see how important, it's a perfect example of how important these reports are, because it shows trends. And you can see that the statewide giveaway program began in 2013. And since that time, as it reflects, we put in now 14,000 alarms. We're still number 1 out of 700 and something departments in the state for installing the most in this county. Now that's not from national Memphis, got 4,000 or 5,000 firefighters. And we've installed the highest number of alarms. Alright, early on, back when we started the first 2 or 3 years, or 4 years, I mentioned Mike, I said, well, I think they're already making a difference. No, you can't say that, it's too early. You're going to have a long enough trend to be able to safely and fairly say to even the state fire marshal's office and other fire departments that smoke alarms will not only save lives, but the property. We went the longest 4 years ago. We set the record for going the longest in history without a death. This is the 9th consecutive year that we haven't had a fire attack. So that is a big thing. I mean, you see it on the local news. We had one a couple of days ago. Had 3, 4 down in Memphis. So no smoke alarms. They don't even have to say it, which they don't. That's one of the problems. They're not saying why they're dying. I know why they're dying. If a house didn't burn, and they died in the house, they didn't have smoke alarms. Okay? So 16 is the big thing. If we go back prior to 2013, it does not show those graphics for the previous 10 years, but from 2004 to 2013, our average number was 38. 38. If you look at these 10 years of graphics, and you average these last 10 years out, there's 23. So those 2 10-year increments, we're averaging having 10 less house fires average than we did the previous on the average. And those numbers, were more like in the 30s and 40s per year, housing burn. That's not only a cost of the homeowner, this is revenue. When a house burns and you don't get the tax revenue, and you have that many houses, this is unbelievable. The public don't see this because it's history. It's in my cabinet at the office. This came as a copy of the first annual report in 1983. You know, we started in 78. But this, the first report was in 1983. We started keeping up with it. The first 10 years, 1983 to 1993, there was an average of, I think it was like 40-something house fires a year. 1983, we had 64 houses in the county that burned. When we just started fire protection, wood burning heat was what I think was like 40% of the wood burning heat. The next year, 54, 52, 42, 44, 50. So twice as many, more than twice the number of fires. But I just wanted to mention that, and those things, because they are so important. Page 7 talks about a budget. You would just turn to page 7. When I opened this annual report this afternoon, the 1983 annual report, our budget at that time, our operating budget, was $85,000 that the county commission gave the department to operate on in the year 1983. 40 years later, 38 years later, it's $454,000 38 years later. But look what it would be if it weren't for the one-time federal and state grants. That's almost as much as the operating budget. Then when you add that to those donations that are raised to the stations this past year, another $144,000, it brings that number up considerably. So you see how important the grants are. The total tax revenue received from the fire tax and the motel tax, our share of it, of the motel tax, has been about $512,000. That's not a lot of money to operate a 17-station county-wide department, and of course you wouldn't do it if you didn't have a volunteer labor. Madison County is more like $4 to $5 million. When you start having to hire, and you will if it came down to it, because if you don't have it, if you can't, you either pay the insurance or you don't have it. So, thank the firefighter, as I know we do. I know how much. I know that you know how much they are appreciated. But even the community needs to thank them. If you had to pay even half of those 200 firefighters full time, and there's lots of departments being forced to do it, to have fire protection. They're having to man certain stations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to keep their insurance premiums and fire protection. It can cost them millions. You add 100 people or 150 people to payroll, ask Chief Carter, or he'll show you how much it's costing. He's managing now having to man about 4 stations, full time, 24/7. And it's a lot of money. So, I think all of that, I know that wasn't a lot on the agenda, and there's some things I had never mentioned before, and I just felt I need to mention those things. It's important to me to be able to share that. For knowledge. Thank you.
Appreciate it. 7.4 highway department, as they wrote this, you all should have a copy of that, please.
Yeah, this is the former house that we did have to pay for this year. We buy houses. Y'all look over that always been reading the minutes from the mayor had a copy of the post office. So, the guy with the guy sawmill out there that's running this forklift in the middle of the road is afraid that somebody's gonna run over it. So we need to put up some signs like trucks crossing or something like that. Like, they're making forklift crossing sign. Yeah.
When the farm people started, they were running that.
I'll tell you what I mean by and stuff. Not to let any line curb signs, dangerous curb, dangerous yield, dangerous intersection. If we put a sign in that we acknowledge that dangerous, we have previous knowledge that it would be so high. So, okay, so I'm just saying this will keep this conversation.
See, you might have to call that, you want to see, what, thank you very much.
We did say that, you know, since the road was so smooth, that when we come there, the people were at 60 mile an hour, and you don't get it like 60.
If you cross the road, it can go up and down. So if he goes out and pulls, I know where it's at, I got it on the top. That's what I told him, he come jump me. I see, go see Steve.
It's easy to me.
Hey, thank you for keeping. All right, guys, we'll head on to a quick little update. Anyway, director has got our 5-year, what's this thing called again?
Basic emergency operations plan.
Basic emergency operations plan here in Canada. It was outdated, trying to get it updated last year. We got it updated in a few months, appreciate your work on that. Submitted to the state, so, he's on board with that. Also, my planning commission's meeting at 5:30 this Thursday night up here. You guys will be a part of that, it's got some security shots going on. Also, right now, our office is working with the EMA Center, about setting up a woman shelter for next week's week. So if we get calls about that, we centralize location, so we have City National Stress Drive, we'll reach out to the other